Hi YouTube! Today I want to talk a little bit about disability. Specifically, what do you do when quote-unquote small disabilities start to add up? I've noticed that a lot of us in our 30s get to this point where all the little things that we kind of handled in our 20s or just got used to, we start to either notice them more or they affect our lives more. And I know a lot of people in their 30s who either started identifying as a person with disabilities or at least had got to the point where they had to confront their health and look for care of some kind when they hadn't before. I think we often experience a range of things related to our health that might not be considered healthy by a medical professional, but they are small enough that they become our personal normal. I'm planning to do an entirely different video about the idea of normal and how that relates to disability and identity, but for now I'll just say that I think a lot of us have a point on our scale of personal health where we experience things that we just would consider sort of normal for us and don't cause us enough pain or distress or disruption in our lives that we would seek medical attention or necessarily consider it a disability. Now, I identify as a person with disabilities, but each individual thing that I experience on its own is not really that big. And when I was in my 20s, a lot of these things I just sort of accepted that I've now started to wonder about. And I think part of the reason why a lot of us don't necessarily seek medical attention is that we have this expectation because of the healthcare system, because of the health insurance system, those of us who are trans or have other identities that aren't going to be understood by doctors, folks of color who are worried about getting culturally competent care, and Native folks. There's a lot of reasons why we might not trust a doctor to come up with a solution, or we might have frustrating experiences where we go into the doctor, they're not quite sure what's wrong, and they're like, okay, come back, try this thing. And I've definitely had times where I've mentioned something to my doctor and they either haven't taken it seriously or I've decided not to do the follow-up appointment because I didn't really feel like they were getting to anything, and I decided just to handle it. So some examples personally of the kinds of things, that I have experienced. I mean, some of them are honestly so epidemic as not to be even considered a disability or an illness, for example, chronic stress. Welcome to the 21st century. But other things, I never in my life had normal digestion. So my expectations as far as eating and what would happen when I ate were very different from other people. So I put up with a lot of gut pain and digestion issues in my 20s because I really liked cheese. I really liked ice cream. And it wasn't until I was in my 30s that I finally said, you know what? This is too much pain. This is too much time where I can't focus on what I want to be doing, so I'm going to make a lifestyle change. Which I did actually before I became vegan. I stopped eating some of the trigger foods that were the worst for me. But other things, just what the quote-unquote norm was for mental health, or what the quote-unquote norm was for energy levels. I've noticed from watching YouTubers with disabilities that often, even if I don't have the full brunt of the thing they're talking about, for example, I don't have chronic fatigue, but I've been dealing with an issue for now a couple of years where I just don't have energy and I can sleep for 16 hours. if I don't have an alarm on, and I always wake up drowsy. I used to be somebody who just like woke up energized. I slept about 10 hours, which is a little higher than most people, but like that was my baseline. It was great. And then I just stopped having energy, became really drowsy. It became really hard not to take naps in the middle of the day. And I eventually was like, okay, this is an actual problem. And when I didn't get much help from medical professionals, I tried adjusting things with my diet and realized that the problem was that I can't eat large meals. Like if I eat a big meal, I just fall asleep. And so I've kind of changed my diet so I eat little bits at a time. And it's really hard, but I've gotten to the point where I can kind of handle it. And so like when I add that to digestion issues and to other issues, mental health, ADHD, auditory processing disorder, it all sort of adds up to challenges in function at work, challenges in function in my life, where I have to adjust a lot to account for those things. I have to be aware of those things when making schedules, deciding what time of day I'll work, deciding what kind of work I'll do at what time. And I think a lot of people probably have these needs and don't get them met because it doesn't feel like they're a person with a disability who needs to seek out accommodation. So I think it's important to be aware that if you have a bunch of different little health problems, different things that are affecting your needs, that it's okay to like talk to somebody, talk to your manager, talk to HR about it, or talk to your friends if it's affecting your social life, and just like be upfront. Like this is how I feel. This is how my life is affected by this. Just saying like I have energy problems in general to people, and like explaining that that's a problem, that I often just fall asleep at weird times. Like that has been really helpful because people don't get angry with me if I'm not around. They understand that I kind of am up on and off during the day and the night. And like not all workplaces especially are going to listen to this. But I think it's a good first step of like normalizing the fact that people have different needs. Everyone has different needs, and it's only like we draw this line in the sand between what's a disability and what's just average. Chronic stress, average. Needing glasses, average, but then other things are not. That I think it's important to like make it a norm that people's needs differ, and that it's important, even if our goal is a productive society, which I wouldn't agree with, but if that's what you think, then it's important to know about people's needs, because you're not going to be as productive if everyone has to fit a standard schedule, a standard sort of list of things that they do. Okay, so that's my rambling little talk about small disabilities adding up. If you are interested in more disability content on this channel, please leave a comment below and let me know what you would like me to discuss next. And if you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.